I think people are going to start to realize the significance of what I'm saying. I've been using terms like fourth dimension, other dimensions, realms, kingdom of God talked about in religious texts. The significance of this is that if we have access to this, we can have anything that we want, we can experience anything we want, and we don't have to wait for it. There is a problem in the world, like say there is a volcano killing millions of people, you can stop them from being killed. People who are starving in the world, you can feed them. You want money? You can have it. Or what if we just didn't even have to eat? There is so much resource in the space around us. Scientists figured it out. It's like taking the mass of the universe, objects in the universe, and squishing it into 1 cubical centimeter. That's how much energy there is in space. The space that we can't see. But we can have access to it, and we don't need tools. I'll explain how. Let me give an example. If you're in a 2D world, and a 3D object enters into a 2D world, for instance, a sphere enters flatland, you would not see it as a sphere. You would see the slice of the sphere. You would just see a flat slice of the sphere. You wouldn't see the rest, even though it is there. So all of that energy contained in the empty space, consider that other dimensions, at least the next, that we're not seeing. Because we're seeing the slice. We're seeing the 3D world. It's the slice. So if you do any research on the fourth dimension, scientists theorize that the fourth dimension is time, like length, width, and height. It would be a physical thing. In other words, we would see the past, present, and future all at the same time. We would also see 3D objects. Like in the 3D world, we can see 2D objects and 1D objects, and so on. But they do say that in the fourth dimension or next dimension, we would see time as something physical. There would be no such thing as past or future. Now I can actually imagine what this looks like, because I've had an experience before where I saw my husband as his little kid self, his old self, and his current self all at the same time when I was on mushrooms. And his old version of himself was a shaman-looking dude, because that's something he was wanting to be. So if we put time on a timeline, and we were to shove time through the third dimension, it would basically look like a slice. We would see a slice of time. Instead of seeing the past, present, and future, we would only see a slice of the time, which is what we see. But in the fourth dimension, you would see the past, present, and future all right now. Go to part 2. Okay, this is part 2, being able to go into another dimension. So you know how 3 dimensions has length, width, and height? Well, scientists theorize that time would be the 4th dimension. So just like we can see length of an object from beginning to end, and height and the width, we would see time in the same way. So we would see an object's beginning of time and end of time at the same time. Past and future not be a thing. It would be an eternal now. Do you understand how this would impact our way of living? So say, for instance, I decided I wanted to be on some island vacationing or something. I could teleport to that island. And this is how. I would simply move in the direction of time, where I had actually flown over to the island and was vacationing. In the same way, we would move up, down, left, or right. Now, a lot of this is hard for me to explain because we're in a 3D world, but I'm doing my best. You may have heard the term jumping timeline. This would be kind of the same type of concept. Basically, you would move through time to the timeline that you did that, in a sense. You want $1 million. You could move through time, the timeline where you won the lottery tonight. But if I just give these kinds of examples, I know that there's people out there who would want to be greedy with it. But it doesn't work that way. Because greed is one of the aspects that actually keeps us stuck in the 3D world. Because here's a couple other things that you would see. You could see the inside and the outside and the backside of everybody. You would see them from the beginning and in the end, all at the same time. You would also realize These boundaries that we have on ourselves are not really there. And say you were zapped all of a sudden into a 4-dimensional reality, you would quickly see how fast your thoughts and beliefs were immediately shown to you. Because the moment you assume something to be truth, say you're buckling up your child because you don't want them to get hurt in a car wreck. Immediately, that entire past leading up to that event of you buckling, the entire future until they are in a wreck would be there all at once for you to experience. Your worst nightmare would be yourself, or your biggest blessing could be yourself. This world could be very scary if you have fear. Anything you fear would instantly be your reality. But here's what's really going to blow your mind. We already exist in a 4th dimension. Everything that you fear already exists. The reason why you don't see it right now is because you're experiencing the sliver of time. Go to part 3. This is part 3 of being able to see and experience the 4th dimension. We already are in a 4th dimension, but we don't see it. We're only perceiving the 3rd dimension. But the reason that we are only perceiving the 3rd dimension is because we don't understand it. They say, well, you would have to have this much understanding capacity, extra things in your brain. But these are all 4-dimensional things. And all that empty space that's so full of energy, I explained in the first video, is probably that we don't see in the 4th dimension. I don't see why that would not include anything additional to our being that we would need to comprehend the 4th dimension. Why do I think this is important in the first place? Think of all the problems that we seem to have in this world. COVID, people starving, natural disasters, people hurting people. If we were able to teleport through time, have additional resources, we could solve a lot of these problems. And look at evolution in our own history. The way it works according to systems theory is that systems will tend towards chaos, where their survival is threatened. And they get to a point where they have to evolve or survive. This is how evolution supposedly took place, like us evolving from Neanderthals and such. And so, as our survival is threatened, we are going to start looking for ways to evolve, which we're already doing. I don't know if you ever read the book The Tipping Point, but it's basically the theory, and also Rupert Sheldrake talks about this in his books, but it's where, like, one person figures something out, do it, like the 4-minute mile, and then it will spread to another person. But it basically gets to the point, which is called the tipping point, where it's no longer gradual, and all of a sudden it spreads to everyone, even if they're not connected, not related. This has been shown in mice biology, completely unrelated mice. So as one person figures out how to see the 4th dimension, be in the 4th dimension, it will spread to others, and it will hit a tipping point. And that tipping point be everyone being in the 4th dimension. Kind of like when people used to believe that the world was flat. It probably really was flat in their reality. Someone got the idea it was round. Once they got the idea, they were able to find proof of that idea and discover it was round. They did not perceive it as being round before that first idea. There's more to our reality that we're not seeing. Doesn't mean it's not there. When one person discovers it, it's going to spread.